guys, Lee Michelle. It's March 16th, 2017. We want to take you to the,
You're a Russian agent!
You're a Russian agent!
You're a Russian agent!
No, you're a Russian agent!
Well, John McCain on the Senate floor called Rand Paul a Russian agent!
You're a Russian agent. You had some of those stackable nesting dolls, and that makes you a Russian agent.
You had a Russian salad dressing the other day. You're a Russian agent.
You were going in your real hurry, rushing out the door earlier, and so I think you're a Russian agent. Russian.
Before, I will say before I read this, if there's objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup. I have no idea why anyone would object to this, except that I will say, if they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly.
Senator from Kentucky.
I object. Mr. President, I note the senator from Kentucky leaving the floor without justification or any rationale for the action that he has just taken. That is really remarkable. That a senator blocking a treaty that is supported by the overwhelming number, perhaps 98 at least, of his colleagues, would come to the floor and object and walk away. And walk away. The only conclusion you can draw when he walks away is he has no argument to be made. He has no justification for his objection to having a small nation be part of NATO that is under assault from the Russians. So I repeat again, the senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
All right, so you want to play it one more time?
I'm gonna play that again.
And object and walk away. And walk away. The only conclusion you can draw when he walks away is he has no argument to be made. He has no justification for his objection to having a small nation be part of NATO that is under assault from the Russians. So I repeat again, the senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
So it pretty much sounds like McCain said that Rand Paul was on the payroll of the Russians.
I do believe so.
himself.
I think he probably had too many Russian salads, a little too much vodka.
So the country at
the country we're talking about right yeah, would like to maybe join NATO. Is this little tiny country right here, Montenegro, part of the Balkans?
We have Bulgaria, Serbia, Macedonia, Albania, Bosnia.
Okay, so this is what we have. This is from the Ron Paul Institute, his daddy, Rand Paul's daddy. Putin derangement syndrome may have finally jumped the shark. Just minutes ago, well, we just watched this just minutes ago, Senator Rand Paul did the sensible thing and blocked NATO accession for the tiny corrupt Montenegro. The inconsequential Balkan country brings absolutely nothing to the NATO alliance with his army of approximately
1,950.
A population the size of the city of Albuquerque,
New Mexico.
and a historical political repression and corruption. So, talking about this corruption, I'd like to bring you to an RT News report from February.
Being thrown at Russia too this time. Moscow has been accused of allegedly being behind a plot to kill Montenegro's Prime Minister last October. Apparently Russia wanted to overthrow the country's government to stop them joining NATO, is the story. Nikki Aaron's across this. It's been published in the Telegraph, isn't it, Nikki? Huge headline.
What a headline indeed. Russia plotting to overthrow the Montenegro government by assassinating the Prime Minister. Now, there's been a lot of sensational headlines about Russia over the past year or so, but with Russia alleged to have done any number of things, but to accuse one country's leader of plotting to assassinate the leader of another country, that's quite unparalleled, isn't it? So you'd expect this story to have some verified sources to back up such outlandish claims. Yet the only evidence evidence provided in this very lengthy article in the Telegraph are unnamed sources, which is quite alarming given that this is a respected British newspaper. It's not a tabloid like The Sun. You know, people expect to believe and to trust what they're reading in the Telegraph, and you'd expect also an article like this in a British respected newspaper to be verified and balanced, and yet in this article there's very little mention of the Russian position in this story, which really fails to mention Russia at all, apart from the fact that Russia strongly denies these allegations. Perhaps they might have even mentioned the comments made by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who spoke about attempts being made to pull Montenegro into NATO, and Russia's not interfering in this process. Well, this is what this whole assassination attempt, alleged assassination attempt by Russia, is all over. It's about Montenegro being pulled into NATO. But what's also concerning about this article is right at the very end, they provide a list titled Russia's Growing Campaign of Interference in the West, written in blood red, very alarming, and listing all the terrible things that Russia is alleged to have done. More use of the words probably, of allegedly, and possibly, because none of these things, of course, have been proven. So from the alleged assassination of a former Russian spy, Litvinenko, to the hacking of the US presidential elections, to cyber attacks in Europe, all things listed to back up this idea that Russia is the bad guy. Yet none of this has been verified. There is no evidence to back any of this. Now, it's interesting how easily and quickly this story is being picked up by other media. This was first published in the Telegraph. It's already been picked up by The Sun, which is a tabloid, so, you know, they thrive on sensational stories. Absolutely. Also being picked up by Reuters. Reuters are being careful to distance themselves from this story with it having no verified evidence. They're saying British media sites. So what's also interesting is why the Telegraph, a respected newspaper, would decide to print such a story without any verified sources, and I suppose that's because Russia, being the bad guy, it just sells stories.
Goes on and on, doesn't it? Well,
so that kind of says a lot, doesn't it? When you've got McCain, who has been a fire-breathing dragon lately, right? He has shown his true colors. In this whole debacle, this whole Trump presidency, everybody's true colors are finally being seen.
Which is, I think, a really good thing.
I love it. McCain is working for Soros. He's working for
The devil.
The devil. He's working for Clinton. He's working for Obama. Right? And they are trying to still pin all this stuff on Russia. Because
even after WikiLeaks exposed how the
so easy for the CIA. So it would be, how easy would it be for the CIA to create sources?
Sure.
That the Russians were trying to kill and assassinate the president of Montenegro, right? And to try to get Montenegro into NATO. Why not the U.S., but why are they pushing for this tiny little country who's not bringing anything to the table?
Right.
Rand Paul knows the deep corruption that goes on in this country. And there are big players with big money, right? And they do this stuff right out in the open. There's widespread corruption that prevents progress in the Western Balkans. I mean, pretty much every spam email that you get originates from like Serbia, of these Western Balkan countries.
Right.
Send me your money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So not only that, when you go down to Montenegro, the main issue considering the state of human rights in the Western Balkans has also prevailed in Montenegro. Corruption was among the country's most significant human rights problems. It was present in healthcare, education, and other branches of government, including law enforcement agencies and courts. The process of appointing judges and prosecutors remained somewhat politicized. Media freedoms were endangered since the independent and pro-opposition media reportedly experienced political and economic pressure. They also reported alleged threats and attacks on the property of media representatives, and it was stated in the report many attacks from previous years remained unsolved and lacked court decisions, discrimination and violence. And then when you the Foreign Policy Journal says the Balkans' corrupt leaders are playing NATO for a fool.
And that's John Kerry.
And that's another evil player. When you look at like the dark side of the chessboard,
Right.
You have John Kerry is right up there. He's like a knight or something. You know what I mean? He can make this move like that. You know, he can't go like a bishop like that or anything, but he can do the L. Take people out, you know. Corrupt leaders throughout the Balkans play on Russia's image as an ever-looming boogeyman in order to get into Europe's good graces, right? So you've got Russia as the big boogeyman to get everybody kind of, you know, together. Russia. You've got everybody in Europe, everybody in the liberals. And then you got some weak-minded people who believe it. Even WikiLeaks made the dump, showed everybody how our very own CIA has the ability to make anything look like anything, and has the ability to make this look like Russia, anything look like Russia.
Right.
Any hack.
Right.
Okay, we know with thinking minds that it's Russia. And then what is the media?
You mean that it's the CIA and things like that?
You know what the mainstream media is? You know what they really are? They're street sweepers. Any truth gets put on the ground, they sweep it real quick. And they sweep it, they pull the rugs up, and they sweep it under there, pull the rug up, and you see all kind of truth. You know what I'm talking about? So, what's interesting is, when I was reading through one of these articles, I believe that the corruption is is on full display. It was during October's parliamentary election, in which the Prime Minister allegedly had expats bribed and shuttled in to vote for him. Expats were awarded as much as 300 euros for their vote, and their travel expenses were covered. An estimated 6,000 to 7,000 expats showed up to vote at a total cost of 4 million euros. This scheme alone may have given Dukanovic extra seats in the parliament. Okay, so there's all kind of schemes going on, and what I'll try to do is I'll put a link to the Foreign Policy Journal here, because corruption runs deep in Montenegro, and so when there's a lot of money, then you need a lot of people to cover up, and so they're kind of so that's why they want Montenegro in NATO, because of the whole corruption scheme. And you know, the West has mainly turned a blind eye to Dukanovic's transgressions, since it sees him as a bastion of stability in the tiny little country and a bulwark against Russian influence.
A bulwark with 1,900 soldiers?
It was just a little country, a bulwark. Ultimately, however, these kinds of policies might backfire by turning the country's citizens. Actually, from what I'm understanding, the country's citizens don't actually want to join NATO. Okay? Only a year ago, Dukanovic faced protests demanding he step down over corruption allegations. While NATO might benefit by joining forces with Montenegro's corrupt regime in the short term, therefore the alliance's hypocrisy only serves to hurt its long-term interests. So, we go back to John McCain, and you are Montenegro's corrupt alliance. You're that. Whatever you call that. You're a Montenegro agent or something.
Kind of feels like a pimp, actually.
Jeez.
I mean, okay. So the point is that McCain knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly the wool that he's pulling over a lot of people's eyes, and he knows that he's not pulling the wool over Rand Paul's eyes. And so the only defense that he has left, that any of these people have left, they're scratching the bottom of the barrel when they throw the Russian snowball at you. Like, well, you're just a Russian agent. That's what you are.
Right.
It's absolutely absurd.
All right, so there's just a lot of corruption, and you can read about it. It's crazy, and everybody's just Russia. Every time I hear Russia now, it's a boy who cried wolf. So before we sign off here, though, I do want to get your opinion as to why do you think that Rand Paul just walked off instead of defending himself? I think that at that point, this is conspiracy theory.
Let's hear it.
Rand Paul knows the corruption. Mm-hmm. He knows McCain is in on it, but he's not going to on the floor bring these accusations on the Senate floor. It's kind of like it's a drop the mic. It's like, I know you, I'm leaving. So you're gonna play the oh my gosh, why did he leave card? Right. Where it's one of those things where he knows, Rand Paul knows the corruption that goes on. He can't go out like Trump and just tweet it. Right. You know what I mean? it's like House of Cards. They have to keep a lot of the corruption under. I mean, it's got to just feel real dirty. He probably went to take a shower. So dirty and corrupt. You know what I mean? He's in the swamp, swinging in the swamp, and he's like, dude, I gotta take a shower. Where's the bleach?
So, so Leah and I, as Russian agents, would like to sign off to all of our fellow
Dude,
Russian
I know
agents.
they're going to tell us if we're Russian agents.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh my gosh, our aunt is Russian.
Yep, we know, yeah, we've been to Russia, actually.
Our uncle started
like
a big
13 when
giant
I went
company
there.
in Russia
Yeah.
in 1995. We're on the payroll.
We
Sorry.
are already being paid. You guys
Where,
are being
you
paid.
know, here's
part of it.
my Russian accent. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm really Russian. You know?
And you guys are too. So this is the Russian resistance chicks signing off.
Well, that's not a conspiracy. If it's the truth,
If you really are a Russian agent,
if you really are a Russian agent, then you just tell them. You just tell everyone, I am a Russian agent. I work with Russia. I love Russia. And I tell you, I told you guys before, I must be a Russian agent because in May of 2015, the Lord kept telling me is pray for Russia, and love Russia. I'm just thinking God is a Russian agent. God loves Russia even if y'all don't. I gotta tell you, here, let me just tell y'all the truth. Russia was a communist country.
yes,
And a lot of their people were hurt and abused.
Right.
And they're coming out of it. It's kind of like they're like ex-drug addicts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to make a go of it in the world.
yeah,
And it's like everybody keeps saying, but you're a heroin addict. And they're like, but I'm not on heroin anymore.
right.
But you're a heroin addict. I'm not. I'm not KGB anymore. We don't have the KGB anymore. Are there still communists in Russia?
Sure.
You bet. Are there still people with a bad mindset in Russia? Sure.
Yep.
Are there bad people in the United States?
Yep.
Are there commies in the United States?
Mm-hmm.
You better believe it.
Y'all know there is.
Okay? But I've listened to Russians, particular Russians, and they said, we're trying to be a Christian nation.
I love it.
We're trying to change.
Yes.
So I can see that they're trying to change, and I see that our leaders, Obama, McCain, they're trying to be commies.
Yeah.
So it's a flip-floppy,
If the boot fits.
Yeah,
All right, you guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications so you get more videos just like this one.
Why aren't you using the Russian accent to sign this off?
I'm sorry.
Yes, find us on Twitter and Facebook.
She said it.
Okay.
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 Goodbye.
Goodbye.
We love you.
Нет, не надо. That's the only
Спасибо.
Russian word we know. Спасибо.
I was called